Bore da, good morning. It's 8 minutes past 8. You're listening to BBC Radio Wales Breakfast with Dot Davis and James Williams. And let's return now to those financial pressures facing Welsh universities. Cardiff Metropolitan University, the latest Welsh institution to move to compulsory job losses to address economic concerns.
And of course, that came after Cardiff University published proposals back in January to cut 400 jobs, while Bangor University and the University of South Wales, USW, are also consulting on job losses. Earlier, we spoke to the former Education Minister, Leighton, who is calling for a major review to overhaul the university funding system in Wales. He explained to us what and why he thinks that is needed.
I think it needs principally to ask the question, is the current system of higher education funding and student support working for the benefit of Wales? Is it ensuring that enough young people go on to further and higher education, for example, in Wales? Are we managing to ensure we have a sustainable range of higher education institutions in Wales under the current system? I think that the real issue will turn out to be a need to rebalance funding between higher education institutions and student support. And that's one of the questions, certainly, that the review should consider. But I'd also like it to look at the governance of higher education in Wales, both the governance at a national level, but also the governance of individual university institutions to ensure they're operating on social partnership principles.
The view now then from academics and from students, because we have with us Professor Dylan Jones-Evans, who's an economist and former academic based in the University of South Wales, and Dea Owen is the National President of NUS Wales. Bore da to you both.
Bore da.
Bore da. Dylan, if it's okay, can I start with you? Leighton Andrews saying that a Welsh-wide review is needed. That's what he's calling for. Do you agree with that? And what should it look at?
Well, this must be something like the 10th time I've appeared on BBC Wales talking about this. 18 months ago, it was clear that the universities were in serious financial difficulties, and I called for the Welsh Government to undertake an immediate review then. So the fact that the former Minister for Education has now done this is to be welcomed, and I hope that the Welsh Government will act on this.
What do you want them to do then? Because Leighton Andrews called for a rebalancing, as he put it, of funding institutions and student support. He wants that looked at.
Well, I think, first of all, we need to determine what are universities for. Because I think that the university sector over the last 15 years has become slightly detached from not only Wales, but the Welsh economy, the Welsh society, and essentially, what we need from our university sector to have a thriving nation. We are in serious crisis now, and I don't think people realise how bad it is. It's not only, you mentioned Cardiff University and Cardiff Metropolitan. Bloomberg News reported recently that Swansea University had to renegotiate its covenants with its borrowers to avoid going into breach. If you look at the University of South Wales, it has 9,000 fewer students from Wales studying there than a decade ago. And Aberystwyth University has one of the lowest cash liquidity of any institution in the UK. So all of our institutions are in quite serious difficulties. But, when we look at this crisis, looking forward now, possibly over the next 6 months, we're talking that the total cost in jobs could be as much as 2,000 fewer posts in higher education in Wales. And, at the end of that process of all these redundancies, that is a serious crisis for the sector, given the knock-on impact on not only staff and students, but also, the regions in which those universities are based.
The former minister also said that he'd like the UK government to look at the rules around overseas students, but moreover as well, he questioned whether enough was being done to encourage Welsh students to stay in Wales. Are those two areas of concern for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like I mentioned to you, it's quite a sobering fact that the second largest university in Wales, the University of South Wales, has lost 9,000 Welsh students over the last decade. The question is, where have those students gone and why have they gone elsewhere? The fact that it was always seen as an institution set up for local students, you can see quite clearly why, if it's been unable or failed to actually attract local students, that it's now, attracting tens of millions of pounds in overseas students or overseas income. And as a result of the collapse in that market, it's estimated a £20 million financial shortfall. So, and it's not only the University of South Wales, this has happened to every university. So, what we need is a review. I don't agree with the minister that we should wait, a former minister, that we should wait until after the next election. This is a crisis. I would want the Welsh Government to do this as quickly as possible, for it to at least do an interim report before the next election, and to get all political parties to agree a way forward. Because, if you think about it, without a university sector in Wales, we are poorer in so many ways, not only in terms of the economy, but in terms of society. And, as we know, with the cuts to nursing at Cardiff University, in terms of supporting our health service.
Daya Owen is listening, National President of NUS Wales. How are students feeling at the moment?
I think the general feeling across the country is nervousness, of anxiety, of worry about, what does the future hold for our institutions. You've got people paying upwards of £9,000+ a year for these courses. And the uncertainty we're facing now as students is almost unprecedented in the times we're facing now, with cuts to courses, cuts to jobs. And it's a really worrying time to be a student, of that unawareness of what's going to happen next to your course, to your lecturers and whatnot.
What did you make of the comment from Leighton Andrews about the need to rebalance the model, how funding works for institutions and students to support? What did you make of that comment? Because he says he doesn't think Wales is getting bang for its buck in terms of student financing.
I think there is a need to change things. I've been calling as well for months for us to look into how HE is funded in Wales and across the UK, because we're facing a situation now which hasn't come out of the blue, and we need to make sure that the money we are pumping into the university sector is being utilised in the best ways possible. And that's not referring to efficiencies cuts made here and there, but it's making sure that students are supported effectively, that workers are able to learn and to teach and to research the work they do, and that the universities are also sustainable, so that we have sufficient funding models going into the future. And without looking into it properly, the tough political decisions can't really be made in an informed way to ensure that our universities are here for the future and that students are supported.
Does the current system do enough to encourage Welsh students to stay in Wales, to go to university, to go on with their education in Wales?
I think in terms of the participation rates challenges we have in Wales, it's the lowest in the UK in terms of the amount of young people who go to universities. I don't think it's just the university's fault. I think there's a wider problem across how people are taught in Wales. We need to ensure that the streams going into universities and into A-levels and such are able to support Welsh students to understand what's on offer, so that they know what courses they can do here in Wales, what universities are here, and they really understand the offer. Because if we can't show people what we have to offer, that they're not going to know what they can do, what they can get up to. So there's a real need to change and look wider afield as well into how people are taught and how we can support these young people across Wales to have a bright future and to look at their options.
Well, that's what the SERN programme's for, isn't it? To encourage students into higher education. There are those that fear that it encourages the brightest, the best, over the border. It encourages them to go to Oxford, to Cambridge. And why not?
Well, if we look at what the former education minister was saying himself in terms of SERN growing its own legs and becoming this bigger thing, I think it has changed from the original concept of encouraging young people to go to Oxbridge. But I think there is a need to reevaluate, what's the SERN scheme for? Is it to enable people from every background, especially lower quintiles in society, to go to university, to recognise what's on offer? When we speak to students across Wales, what we hear in NUS is people aren't really sure what the SERN scheme is for. People don't understand how they can get involved or what incentives there actually is there for people who wouldn't have considered going to university to go to university. It's not just about encouraging those who would already go to university to go. It's about ensuring that everyone has equal opportunity. And I think there is a need to change that. And we've been hearing from the government that they're willing to change and they're ready to change what the SERN scheme is aiming to do. So I think it does feed into the wider narrative of how can we encourage young people to go to university, to understand their opportunities, and make the most of what we do have on offer here in Wales. It's not just about going over the border to England, it's about ensuring people can go to university, can understand the best pathways for them and the opportunities for their own learning as well.
What are you hearing, Deo? Because I should put my hand up here in terms of having skin in the game. I do have boys of a certain age. One of them's in sixth form, starting to look at where he wants to go, what he wants to do. There are open days happening right now, offer holder days, I know have happened in Cardiff over the last few days over the weekend. What are you hearing from potential students and their fears about venturing into university life and what that might mean for their future? Is it worth it for them? Are they asking that question?
I think it's definitely worth it. I don't think anybody should be discouraged from going to university, but especially the media narrative we have around the whole university sector at the moment and the conversations we have in society, it is quite negative, and we need to make sure that people are aware of the opportunities universities in Wales still offer people. But I think it is important to encourage young people to take the leap, go to university, study an apprenticeship or go to an FE college, because if we try and inhibit those opportunities by talking down about the opportunities we have or overemphasising maybe some of the issues, there is a need for change, but that doesn't mean that the sector is closed for business. It's more vital now than ever that people do go to university and they do follow the best options for them.
Diolch yn fawr, Deo. Thank you for coming in and talking to us this morning. There was Deo Owen, the National President of NUS Wales, and we spoke as well to Professor Dylan Jones-Evans, who's an economist and former academic based in the University of South Wales. It's just coming up to 20